Welcome to Lead Up, Leadership Gwinnett's podcast dedicated to showcasing initiatives that truly impact our community and the incredible leaders behind them. I'm your host, Logan Serrano, Leadership Gwinnett's Director of Marketing and Communications. Today, I have joining me a special guest, Antonio Molina. He is an attorney at law with NGUYEN PHAM, LLC, and the chairman of the Georgia Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Welcome, Mr. Molina.
Welcome. Gracias, Logan. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Very excited for our conversation today.
I'm looking forward to it. So Antonio is an immigrant. He was born in El Salvador, but raised in Miami, Florida. After graduating high school, he enlisted in the United States Navy, then pursued a career in healthcare, and later attended law school at Georgia State. So after passing the bar, Antonio worked as a corporate law attorney and now works for a community-based firm. We'll get Antonio to share more about his inspiring leadership and civic engagement journey in a moment, but I want to mention that he has served in many volunteer capacities and has received many accolades and awards for his contributions. Just to name a few, he is a recipient of the Georgia Trend Magazine's 40 Under 40 Award. He was the Georgia Perimeter College's Alumnus of the Year in 2014, and he was recognized by Congressman Hank Johnson with the Community Champion Award. So I'm delighted to have Antonio joining us on our podcast today to share a bit about his leadership story and his current role as chairman of the Hispanic Chamber. It's obvious that he has a servant's heart and he's a true champion of the community. So I'm excited for this conversation. Antonio, we'll dive right into it. You ventured from serving in the Navy to healthcare to law and now serving on the board of the GHCC. Can you tell our audience a bit about that journey and the paths that led you to where you are today?
I mean, I would say, primarily it's, opportunities that are presented, right? I think also that we have a saying in Spanish, que uno propone y el Señor dispone, right? Meaning that you could propose a plan, but God will, light the path for you to go. And I think I am, an example of that. When I got out of the military, I was working millwrights. I was actually doing power plant overhauls, really working with my hands, which is what I had done in the Navy as a gas turbine petty officer. And so, things being what they were, I ended up coming back home and helping to build, my family's medical practice from, about 5 employees to about 30 when I left. So I was very blessed with that. And obviously, in the meantime, went back to law school. Or started school, period. I wasn't the best student in high school, not that I wasn't smart. I just had other priorities, I guess you could say, right, at the time. And so I always share the story that, at one point, I barely graduated high school, right? I had a 2.0 GPA. And I love to share that, especially with the youth, because a lot of times they might think that, oh, my GPA is too low, I can't do nothing with my life. And for me, it was 2.0 GPA. Graduating high school by the skin of my teeth and support of teachers that wanted me to get out of there. Fast forward, ended up graduating from Emory University, one of the top 20 universities in the country, and eventually going to law school. So I think, I'm an example of opportunities and God's grace on my life that's allowed me to get to where I am today. But I have gone through different iterations, so it's always fun seeing, the different places that God could take you. And sometimes you got to get those cuts, scrapes, and bruises to build, for what's next.
That's incredible. I just think that's amazing. Just your whole journey is pretty incredible. And it's also evident that you greatly value service and community stewardship. You've served in many volunteer capacities that I've mentioned, also including the Chief of Staff for State Representative Pedro Marin. Can you talk a bit about what service means to you and why it's so important?
For me, at the end of the day, the one, I guess, title I eventually want to obtain, right, is, well done, good and faithful servant. And so part of that obviously means giving of yourself, giving to the least of these. And to me, it's always been important. So I started working with Representative Marin actually as an intern while I was in college. And I said, hey, I want to help you. I know you're the only Latino in the Georgia General Assembly at the time. Technically, there was two, David Casas as well. But really, Pedro was the one that was more out and about within the Latino community and other communities, right? I love the fact that he had a passion for all and still does. And so I wanted to be part of that, right? Bringing that unity and change. And so really started as an intern, eventually, became his chief of staff and was down there for 9 legislative sessions, learning the process and making sure that our community and others had a voice at the table. And it was a phenomenal experience. I always think that you get a lot out of service, right? For me, it's been one of the greatest blessings in my life. And I think it's been part of my success too, right? I mean, not too many individuals can say that, they haven't really ever interviewed for a job, but it's been, through relations and those relationships, were forged in service with nonprofits and government organizations and things of the like. So I always encourage, our young up and comers to make sure that they're putting of their time and giving of themselves and doing it out of their heart and not just out of what's in it for them, right? But really doing it with that servant mentality requires for you to put others above self when you're doing things. And if you're not genuine in that, it comes through.
Exactly. I totally understand that. And I think it's needed now more than ever, people to step up and lead as servant leaders. I think that's so important. And I just had to mention that not only do you volunteer in all these capacities and you have a full-time job, but you also have a family, right?
Yes, I have 2 beautiful girls and a phenomenal wife who's a saint. And my mother-in-law, who I will say that without my mother-in-law in our lives, I don't think I would be able to do half of the things that I do.
Yeah.
She really makes it possible. So, we're very blessed to have her. My wife, who, aside from helping to raise our girls, is also, an award-winning nurse at Piedmont Eastside. She actually has won the Daisy Award, I think, back to back for each quarter since she started. So I'm very proud of her and, looking forward to what the future has.
That's so exciting. Thanks for sharing that. That's great. So you currently serve as the chairman of the Georgia Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Can you tell us a bit about the purpose and mission of the chamber?
So for me, right, the mission of the chamber is not only helping our businesses, but I think it's helping the families that each one of those businesses represent. Myself, my family has a small business. That's since a young age. My mom had me started working like when I was 8, right? And it was at first it was like going to all the apartment complexes and putting little flyers on the door and talking to people, and eventually working the front counter. And so entrepreneurship has always been, at the core of my upbringing. And I think is part of the reason, that I've been able to succeed. But really for me, it's every small business, that there's families behind those businesses, right? So when we say we're helping small businesses, it's not just some type of cold break entity, right? We're talking about the families that run it, the teams and their families, right, that work within those organizations, and also the clients that they serve. Without small businesses, the services that they provide would not exist. And so it's important to always keep that in mind whenever we're doing the work that we do, is that although some people just think as a business and automatically assume profitability, the reality is that that's not always the case, right? And there's a lot of struggling businesses that are out there providing much needed support. In the same way, nonprofits themselves are a business. They are a non-for-profit entity, but at the end of the day, it's a business nonetheless. And so that's why we're very assertive and very passionate about what we do, because we know that we're helping so many families when we do the work that we do, and ensuring that our businesses are able to grow and really during the pandemic, right, stay open.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's incredible. And you are major supporters of entrepreneurs, of young leaders, of people who are trying to grow and advance their business, and also some advocacy. So can you talk a bit about maybe some of those programs like HYPE or Crescer or Avanzar, and maybe some of the advocacy work that the chamber is doing?
Absolutely. So I think for us, HYPE, I say that they're our present and our next generation, right? They're already leaders in their own rights now. But it's making sure that, you know, we provide them the tools so that, you know, whenever it's time and we need, you know, new ideas and new people to step up, they have the where I'll be on, they've had the training and they know how to handle those positions and be effective, right? Because at the end of the day, we want to ensure that we have effective leadership, right? It's not just to have descriptive representation, but you need to make sure that we're able to step up to those roles and do the work that's required. So that's important. Crecer really is a labor of love from the chamber. You know, in the last couple of years, we've kind of changed our approach, right? Where before the chamber was very much about your traditional chamber model, right? You have your networking, you have your fun events, your happy hours. But outside of the networking, and not that those things aren't important, and relationships are definitely important, but we felt we needed to do a little bit more. And so we started Creciendo Juntas, which are programs that are programmatic. It's a period of 6 to 12 weeks where you get in-depth training with professionals, with mentors, with consultants, giving you the tools that you need to be able to succeed, right? A lot, especially of our micro businesses, right, which are going into small businesses, lack some of those things, right? Even some of our small businesses that are really good at what they do, you know, might have the recipe, they might have the formula to be successful in what they're doing, but they're not able to scale because they're so focused on the actual product and not everything that goes around it.
Right.
So helping those businesses, you know, has been important. And then once they've reached a certain level, we need to get our, you know, our businesses that are like at the million level to 2, 5, 10, right? And so that's where Avanzar came in. And we're going to be working on another program pretty soon to get those 5, 10 million businesses to 20 million,
Awesome.
and so on and so forth. Eme, you know, with our women, we know that Latinas are the fastest growing segment in the economy. They're starting businesses at a faster scale than anybody else. And we need to make sure that it's not just about starting those businesses, but that those businesses make it through that 2-3 year gap, right? That most businesses usually fail in. And that they have the support, the network, the connections that they need, which is partly where the advocacy comes in, right? Making sure that we have a lobbyist down at the Capitol every session to make sure that our interests are aligned. This year, we're also working on launching our legislative priorities, working together with the Georgia Chamber to make sure that it's not all immigration, right? And our community is not all immigration. Obviously, immigration is very important to us. Don't get it wrong. I mean, when a lot of the communities that we serve are affected by immigration, we have to focus on immigration. It's a business thing for us, right? A lot of minority or Hispanic businesses serve a lot of the Hispanic and immigrant community. And so we have to make sure that we're at the table when it comes to immigration. But there's other priorities that we can work on, right? That help with deregulation. And not only that, but making it easier for our businesses to operate, making sure that they understand and have the tools to navigate things like rezoning or having to deal with their council or commissioners. So those are things that we're working on and we're expanding to make sure that our businesses, you know, have a seat at the table and have someone that they can talk to whenever they're having problems.
What an incredible resource for our community. And I just think that's incredible. I had no idea that is all that the chamber did. So thank you for sharing that information. Kind of in the same vein, I read that you founded the GHCC's 50 Most Influential Latinos Awards, which recognizes top Hispanic leaders in the state. Can you talk a little bit about the purpose of this well-respected initiative?
Yeah, so it was started out of need and necessity, right? So we were seeing a lot of these awards that would always come about. And we used to joke, right, within our community, we'd be like, all right, we already know there's going to be one slot for our Latinos. So let's be pragmatic on who's going to get it this year because you're only going to have one slot.
Right.
And it was the same for leadership programs, right? A lot of the times, you know, Leadership Atlanta has that caveat sometimes too, right? Where it's you get one Latino in, so we got to be careful who it is. And so it came from that, also from the fact that you know, a lot of times our nonprofits, I love them to death, but you would see this a lot, right? Where the people that were being recognized were somehow tied to funding of an organization.
Right.
And so I said, you know what, we need to put something it's not connected to any one organization, that really is transparent, that is, you know, beyond reproach, and that highlights all these incredible individuals throughout the state that are doing so much. But for one reason or the other, haven't gotten that recognition. And so that's really where it started. I got the first year, and still is very similar now, but we get leaders from every Latino organization. So that way it's not heavy in one way or the other. And we put it out to the community to make sure that they nominate. And even though it lives within the Georgia Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, the idea is that this is not a chamber award, right? This is 50 most influential Latinos to recognize those Latino leaders throughout the community. Right. And different sectors of the community. It's through this too that as a chamber, right, we realize that there's so many leaders outside of Metro that we needed to connect with. There's so much work to be done outside of Metro, and it's one of the reasons why, you know, this coming year we're going to be focusing a lot more outside of Metro. But that's really where it came from, and you know, it's a beautiful thing now that we have some leaders, right, that as part of their applications to, you know, programs like the excellent program that you guys running Gwinnett, or Atlanta, or Leadership Georgia, or you know, the Georgia Trend Awards and all these other things that they could put on there, right? I'm part of the 50 most influential Latinos.
That's awesome. I think that's pretty incredible. And is this a year? You said it's an annual thing. How can people nominate? When does that cycle take place?
So it's varied every year depending on when the awards are going to happen, but we usually at least 3 months beforehand open it for nominations. I think this year we might do it earlier. And it's open to the public. People can nominate. You know, I always tell people that don't assume someone's getting nominated because of who they are. Right. Because usually those are the ones that get missed, because everybody's like, they're going to nominate. Yeah. I don't need to nominate that person. And then you're like, oh, nobody nominated them. Oh, that's bad. Funny. So, yeah. But we also encourage, you know, our members of our committee, which is a secret committee, so that nobody is doing all the lobbying, right, to try to get on the list. Right. But that committee also gets to nominate individuals. And so we have a really good, you know, selection process. At the end of the day, we have over usually 300 to 500 individuals that get nominated. And then we make, you know, the final selection of the 50, which usually 25 are pretty easy, you know, right, cut and dry. And then it's the last 10 that are usually like, oh man. And then you start thinking like, oh shoot, I forgot so-and-so. But wait a minute. Right. And so,
yeah, no, I get it. We have a similar process with Leadership Gwinnett, with the super secret, you know, committee and all of that. So I get it. It's awesome. I think that's fantastic. We'd love to push that out when nominations open. So going back to some more of the chamber stuff, what is the biggest challenge that's facing the chamber today?
I would say it's, you know, really adapting to what's coming, right? I mean, change is happening so quick now, you know, where, you know, life cycles in the past, you know, took a longer time. You know, now it's with social media and everything else is so quick. I think also, you know, upcoming generations expect different from us, right? Where a lot of, you know, the older established chamber members are used to a certain way of doing things, right? Or kind of, you know, the standard operating procedures, right? Where now we can really throw those out the window, right? A lot of next gen is not about following a standard operating procedure. You know, they want to see change. They want to see it quicker. They want to see action. They don't want to just say, hey, it's coming down the pipeline in Q4 of next year. And they're like, no, like we're in Q1 of this year. And so I think it's being mindful of those things, is being mindful of the world that we're living in, and how do we make sure that we're part of that conversation, right? A lot of times, you know, I talk a lot about, you know, diversity, equity, and inclusion, but that means that we as a chamber also have to be diverse, right? That we also have to be promoting unity. It can't just be one-sided and expecting everybody to take us in, but not wanting to take anyone in ourselves. So I think that's something that we continue to work on, and we'll be launching new initiatives that I think will be very exciting. And I think it's being intentional, right, with everything that we do. It requires intentionality. A lot of times you can say, oh no, but we're open for anybody and everybody. But if you're not out there being intentional, starting those conversations, then it's tough to actually, get to those metrics that we want to achieve.
Yeah, I totally understand. And I think that's the key there, is the being intentional, getting the right people at the table, and the unity. I love that. Well, in 2019, you gave a commencement address at the Georgia State University Perimeter College, where you spoke about the importance of time and serving others and overcoming obstacles. Can you tell our audience a little bit about that message? I think that's a great message.
Yeah, for me, while we don't know how much time we're going to be here on this earth, right? I think God has given us that mandate, right, to make the most out of it and do the most good that we can. And I don't want to get religious on this, but through my faith, right, as followers of Christ, we're showed that example, right? Someone that came to this world to help others and spend every day and moment doing that. He didn't spend it building fortunes. He didn't spend it being politically correct. He spent it doing the work and giving of themselves. And what I really love is, the people that he chose to do it with, right? I mean, he could have picked anyone and it would have been done, right? He didn't have to go with the crew that he had, but he really, picked the fisherman, someone that he knew would betray him. I mean, those are the individuals that he decided to work with. And so for me, it's important to live life in the same way, right? I think every single human being has value. And a lot of times it's just giving them the opportunities to be able to do and achieve, their God-given potential. So, and time is the one thing that we never get back, right? And so it's important for me that I use it the right way. At times, even now, as I'm getting older, right, I'm realizing that, for instance, for me, one of the things that I'm working on in the next couple of years too is being mindful of the time that I need to spend at home with my girls. As they're getting older, obviously they require a lot more of my attention and my time. And so while it's difficult sometimes for me personally, right, to be like, man, like yesterday, I think I had 2 events that I was supposed to or was invited to, but I was like, you know what, I'm going to stay home. We did go with my girls to the Net Church, which is where I go to church. And we had a toy drive, right, where we brought families in and they were able to shop. They didn't pay for anything, but they still got that shopping experience, got to get toys. We did all the wrapping and, helping those 50 families, right, was something important for me, not only because we did it, but I did it with my family, right? So my oldest daughter was there helping me out and working, and seeing her and making sure that she has in her heart, right, those type of servant mentalities is important to me. So I think a lot of times too, right, we're able to get where we're at, again, because of opportunities. But opportunities also requires for you to be ready to receive those opportunities, right? You can have a CEO come and recruit you and that opportunity is there, but if you're not ready to deliver or don't have the things that you need, then you're not going to get that job or you're not going to get that opportunity. So especially for our youth, I always tell them, I can open a lot of doors for you, but it's not going to be helpful if you haven't done your part. If you don't have the grades, if you don't have the overall resume that they're looking for, it's not going to be I can't help you, go right into Emory with a 2.0.
Right.
I can if you're like at a 3.9, 3.7. Those things are doable, right? I can connect you and make sure that that it's something or you're someone that they're consider, but you have to do your part too, right? And so that's where, for me, opportunities, not just doors or windows at times being open, right, but it's it does require that you're ready and prepared. It's one of the things that the Boy Scouts taught me, right? Always be prepared. And so that's what I try to do, and make sure that those that I mentor are ready for those opportunities as well.
Yeah, what a powerful and true message. And I love that you're instilling those values in your kids, and that they get to see you in action and be a part of it. And that's incredible. Thank you for sharing that with our audience. One more question, well, two more, but the next one is, what's one lesson that your job or volunteer roles have taught you that you think everyone should learn at some point in their life? I think you've mentioned some good stuff already, but what's one thing?
Yeah, I will tell you, it's important that you never overlook someone.
Yeah.
You never know how that little help could lead to massive changes. You never know what kind of assistance you're going to need one day, or how that person that's in front of you today could be your boss in the future, could be an elected official, could be someone that opens the door for you, right? Or lends you a car because yours broke down. I mean, there's so many times in life where I think, especially as we climb, we might lose track of where we started. And I think that's the biggest mistake people can do is, when they start letting their ego kind of get in the way, or they get too big and they think that they're too good for situations. I think that's where, errors start occurring and things start happening that aren't the best. Again, we have a shining example. I mean, through my faith, right? At least it helps me keep me humble, right? I'm definitely not a savior of anyone. And I'm blessed to be in a place economically, right, where I could do a lot of good. And so for me, it's important to humble yourself, to keep in that mission, understanding that you never know what tomorrow brings, and tomorrow you could be the least of these, right?
Yeah.
And how you serve people now would really make a difference in how others maybe serve you.
Yeah.
In
No,
the
I think
future.
that's really powerful stuff, and something that we try to portray in Leadership Gwinnett. I mean, humility, and you're only, a few paychecks away from some major stuff
Mhm.
happening. So, I mean,
Right.
it's incredible. Humility, be humble. I think that's very important. Finally, how can community leaders step up and support the Hispanic community and or the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, the Georgia Hispanic Chamber?
There are plenty of ways to do it. As a Hispanic community, and this, Logan, we love to hug and kiss. We embrace everybody.
Yes.
You just got to open your arms and we're there. We love to get a hug and work. And there's different programs that we have available, right? Different areas and opportunities. We're always looking for mentors for our businesses too, right? I think it's important that as we grow, we understand and really have true unity, because you don't know what you don't know, right? And so that's why for us it's very important that we're involved with the Gwinnett Chamber, with the Georgia Chamber, with our Black community, with our Asian community, because it's important to know. And the only way that we really defeat stereotypes, right, or misconceptions is head on, is talking it out, sitting down, seeing ways that we can all help each other. The Hispanic market is, whether you like it or not, going to be the fastest growing segment of the population nationwide. And the same is true statewide. We were just at a retreat this weekend, talking to Chris Clark, and we were going over the numbers, right, of how the change is coming. And so for me, it's important that we have that unification, because at the end of the day, if numbers play out, we want to make sure that we have leadership that is well equipped and well tooled to make sure that our communities continue to thrive, that our businesses continue to thrive. And just because one segment is growing doesn't mean that we have to push another one out of the side, right? I mean, I think we all work best when we have high tides that lift all boats, right? We can all do good in this, and that's what we're here as a chamber, is to try to be that bridge, right? To connect our businesses, our families, our community, to different communities, and being that voice, right? That, hey, you have a printing company, you have any type of service, there's Latinos that need it.
Yeah.
They need those services. Hispanics need everything that, any other community needs, as far as services go. We also use a lot of different venues and avenues and services already. And, if you really want to increase your customer base, and also make sure that you're responsive and are doing things to thank that customer base, what better way to do it than in a way that we can jointly, right? And in the best interest of all organizations and community, grow our communities and our businesses together, so that, there isn't this infighting where, oh, well, this group got this, the other one didn't, but that we're all making sure that we have a mutual benefit of growing together.
No, I think that's awesome. And I always joke with my husband when we go to family events that we need to start saying goodbye about an hour before it's actually time for us to leave, because we've got to go around and get a hug and kiss from every single person and then talk for another 10 minutes. And so it's they're just so welcoming, and they just love people. So I love that you mentioned that. But listen,
yeah, I still do that now. I was at an event this weekend, and I was like, all right, I'm leaving. And they're like, all right, no, for real now. This is the real leaving.
Yes, it's hilarious. I can't no longer. Before I, was dating him, I used to just be able to kind of sneak out, but I am not allowed to do that now. But we always joke about that. It's pretty funny. But listen, I've just loved talking with you. I think this is some great stuff, some wonderful truth bombs, and this is incredible, good stuff. But we're all out of time for today, and thank you so much for spending the morning with me and giving our audience the chance to get to know you a little better and to give us the scoop on the great things that are happening at the Georgia Hispanic Chamber. It's been such a pleasure hearing your story. So thank you so much. And thank you all for watching, and we'll see you on the next episode of Lead Up.